So before we start, just a reminder: all our meetings are recorded and posted on YouTube. So if you don't feel comfortable with your name or your discussions being posted, you can either not participate in the discussions, not raise your talking about anything, but I have to do this disclaimer because you are all going to be on YouTube. Okay. Let me share here where we are. We are here in characteristics of a virtuous person. We are in the last 2 items of book 3, the moral perfection, and then we are going to start book 4, which is the last book of the Spirit's book. So I'm going to ask Paco. I am muted you, Paco, and if you want to unmute yourselves to ask questions, feel free. I muted everybody to start with, but you can unmute yourself if you want to ask questions. So question 918, characteristics of a virtuous person. Go ahead. This item has only 1 question.
Only one.
Answer. Only one.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You want me to start?
Yes, please.
Okay. Are there signs indicating that humans have achieved the progress that will raise them in the spirit's hierarchy? The elevation of incarnate spirit is demonstrated by the compliance of all their actions in the physical life with God's law and by their understanding of spiritual life. Truly virtuous individuals are those who practice the law of justice, love, and charity in their purest form. If people question their consciences in regard to their actions, they will ask themselves whether they have violated the law or done anything wrong, whether they have done all the good in their power, whether no one has reason to complain about them, and whether they have done to others everything that they would wish others to do to them. When people are overwhelmed by feelings of charity and kindness for all, they do good for the sake of doing good, without looking for a reward, and they sacrifice their interests for justice. They're kind, compassionate, and humane to all, because they view everyone as their brothers and sisters, regardless of race or creed. If God has given them power and wealth, they consider them deposits confided to them for the general good. They're not arrogant because they know that what God has given God can take away at any time. When society makes people dependent on them, they treat them with kindness and compassion as equals before God. They use authority to elevate them morally rather than crushing them with pride. They are indulgent in relation to others as witnesses, knowing that they too need indulgence, and remembering Christ's words, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." They're not vindictive and follow the examples of Jesus, forgiving all offenses, as they know that they will only obtain forgiveness as they forgive others and themselves. Finally, they respect the rights of others as established by the law of nature, as they would want others to respect their rights.
Okay, so when we talk about the characteristics of a virtuous person, you see that the question is very small, simple, and the answer from the spirits is short. The explanation by Kardec is what's long. And I'm going to start by sharing a phrase that I read this week that I thought immediately when I read it, I thought about this class that we're going to have today. And it says the following: a decent human is not a decent human because he or she obeys the law, but because he or she doesn't need a law. You see, that's what makes a virtuous person. You don't need uh, anyone to dictate rules for you. You live by the right rules that are imprinted in your conscience according to the teachings of Jesus or according to God's law. I'm going to go to the gospel according to Spiritism. When the item virtue, when it is written there, virtue in its highest degree comprises the whole of all the essential qualities which constitute a good person. Being good, charitable, hardworking, sober, modest, are all qualities of virtuous persons. Unfortunately, they are often accompanied by slight moral infirmities which mismatch and decrease them. Those who display their virtue are not virtuous since they lack its main quality, modesty, and instead possess its most contrary vice, pride. Virtually truly worth of its name does not seek to put itself on display. You can guess it, but it prefers to remain unnoticed and flees flattery and compliments of others. So we go back to what Kardec tells us, that truly virtuous individuals are those that practice the law of justice, love, and charity in the purest form. Do to others what you would like others to do unto you. So if we question our conscience, if we have done anything to violate the law, and here we're talking about the natural law, the law of love, justice, and charity, not human's law, because human's law can be imperfect. So the true law that we have to follow is the law of our conscience that dictates what's right and what's wrong according to the teachings, the natural law and the teachings of our master. So it's a challenge. We are not going to find virtuous people all around. We are not going to think of ourselves as a virtuous person if we look hard deep inside of us. But the important thing here is to understand the need to practice it, to try to exercise it, to constantly challenge ourselves, to improve ourselves. Because you remember what Kardec said, the true spiritist is the one that makes an effort to be a better individual every single day, better than they were yesterday and better than they were 1 month ago, 1 year ago. You do not compare yourself to others. You do not measure yourself against others. You measure you against yourself. So these are the characteristics of a virtuous person. And again, when you read these chapters, especially in the gospel, when you read "Be perfect" and all these characteristics of a moral person, it's very challenging, and it's very common that we look at ourselves and we think, I'll never be like that. That's impossible. But we have to understand we are in a world of trials and atonements. We are learning, and the first part that we have to learn is on the intellectual side, so we can transform it into the moral side if it's still not there. So it's an exercise, it's a daily exercise, and the understanding of what's needed is the first step. We try, we fail, we try again, we fail again until we succeed. But if we don't try, if we have no knowledge, we won't try. And if we don't try, we will not succeed. So nobody's saying that's easy, but it is achievable because we know virtuous people. We know virtuous persons around us. We have examples. So we know people that are kind, compassionate, and humane to all. And, you know, it may be the exception. They may be unknown to most of us, but they exist, and it is possible. Okay?
Well,
Yes?
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you give us some perspective on the statement, forgive all offenses, when we're dealing with aggression like took place in Minneapolis?
Yeah, I thought it was someone was going to raise this, and of course, to forgive.
What was the question, Mike?
You couldn't hear?
No.
Can you repeat a little bit louder, Philip?
Can you give us some perspective on considering the statement, forgive all offenses, in light of the activity that took place in Minnesota?
Yes. You heard now, Paco?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Let us first understand that forgiveness works for you. It doesn't work for those that you forgive.
Exactly.
Because if you don't forgive, you carry the hatred inside yourself, and it's only going to hurt you. If you hate those that perpetrated those barbaric acts, you are going down to the same level as they are. So it's not to say that you understand, that you accept, or that you don't think that they should be punished according to human's law. We're saying, when you talk about forgiveness, you are talking about what are you doing to yourself, because Jesus told us to forgive 70 times 7. And when the apostles asked him, once you reach that, should you continue forgiving? And Jesus said, you need to forgive 70 times 7 for each offense. But as we study more and understand more how we work, how our mind works, and what influences it brings to us our own thoughts, we need to understand that forgiveness, it works for ourselves. It's only for ourselves.
Definitely.
Because again, you cannot accept what happened. I understand. You cannot face the individuals and look at them and be kind to them. I understand that. This is all very hard. We are not there yet. But the important thing here is to understand the concept of forgiveness as an instrument of self-evolution, of an evolution of not going down to the level of those that caused the offenses. Because if you are hating them, you are going to the same level as they are. So you are not being a true spiritist or a true Christian or a true spirit in search of moral and intellectual progress.
That's wonderful. However, my concern is, if you're in the presence of this, what actions are you allowed to take to attempt to stop it?
If you face the situation yourself, you
Not
are
necessarily. Doesn't matter whether it's against you or someone else.
Again,
what actions are you allowed to take that are within the guidelines?
you have to fight for justice. You have to improve the relations between human beings. You have to work hard to improve the relation of human beings. You are not going to go to their level. Philip, people almost cannot hear you, so I'll have to repeat what you were saying. Philip is asking, what can we do if when we are facing with this situation? What can we use in terms of helping ourselves, helping our brothers and sisters? That's what you are asking, right, Philip?
Yes.
Okay, and again, there are several aspects here. The aspect of forgiveness, it's important for ourselves. The aspect where we work hard to change society is another aspect. But
Exactly.
you are not going to change society using the same tools that they are using. If they are being they are using violence, you are not going to use violence, because violence takes us nowhere. So you have to follow your moral stand, and you have to make your position clear and do everything in your power to help society improve, understanding that we are limited by a series of things, and we won't be able to change the world. This is not a problem that started last Monday. This is a problem that started hundreds of years ago, and it's not going to be solved in 1 week. But every little act that we do, that we try to help society to become better society, it's going to make a difference. We are better today than we were 30 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago. We are still, and we can see by what happened this week, how far we still are of a just society. We're not there, and we are very far from there. And I don't think we will see a just society in this lifetime, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to work very hard to improve it to the limit of our possibilities, understanding our limitations and accepting our limitations.
Exactly. May I say a word?
Sure, Paco, go ahead.
I see forgiveness as a gift I give to myself. Okay? And when it's a gift, because I no longer chain to the person, the perpetrator, or to the event any longer. So it's a gift I give to myself when I forgive someone. And when it's hard, very difficult for me to forgive, then I have to realize that's a function of the ego. So what I did in my case is I did pray for the willingness to forgive, and actually said out loud, because on my own I cannot forgive. So I actually displayed my ego during my prayer, and lo and behold, like I was able to forgive. And gradually, I can wow, it's not really affecting me any longer, and I even talk about it. And the Course in Miracles taught me also, Marianne Williamson, that to forgive doesn't mean that you're going to take the perpetrator or the one who did the offense. You're not going to take them to dinner. That doesn't mean you're going to take them to dinner. It's just that you're going to release the chain that had me enslaved to that event or person.
Yeah, it's exactly that, Paco. It's exactly that. And again, we are spirits working on our evolution, struggling with in a lot of aspects of our daily lives, and we are not going to be able to become saints in this incarnation. So if especially when we are facing with these situations that we are facing this week, and we feel anger, we feel we get revolted, we feel all these natural emotions that are part of who we are. it's only natural. Now,
Yes.
how do we analyze them? How do we use our spiritist knowledge to help us overcome these inferior sentiments? It's what we are doing here. That's what we've been studying for so long, to try to learn to improve ourselves.
Exactly, to
Because
change.
yes, because unfortunately, it's society is not going to change from day to night. So the same way as the same thing that happened here this week is going to happen again. But every time something like this happens, we can only have the hope that it will move a little bit further in the progress of society. And we have to work hard for it as much as we can. And again, on our own personal work of improvement is like the example that we normally say when we discuss this, right? You start by forgiving those that bump on you on the subway that you never met before, and you're never going to meet again. You're going to get angry at him or her and use your anger. Well, let's start there. It's slow. Something that it's theoretically it's much easier for us to exercise our patience, our forgiveness, and we go from there. Because there are some things that happens to us in our lives that are very hard to forgive. I understand that, but we need to exercise our knowledge and our understanding of how this harms ourselves to be able to try to overcome these inferior sentiments that they are only natural.
John, I would like to ask you a question.
Sure.
Not a question. Yeah, you remember a couple of weeks ago on Saturday, there was a beautiful lecture on forgiveness.
Yes.
And I believe it was in Africa.
Yes.
Do you remember that? And yes. It was so beautiful because the gentleman whose family his family was killed. Yeah. And he couldn't forgive, and he became really sick, alcoholic, I think it was. He couldn't live with himself until he got to a point that he somehow that he got to forgive. And I mean, this story was so beautiful that I still have it in my mind. And that if he didn't forget, this is why he became sick. He couldn't let go of this. What happened to his family.
Yes.
And actually, it says, like you said, that you have to forgive not 7 times, 70 times, for each offense. So we could understand how difficult this was. But he got to that point. He did. And he reflected on what happened and forgave. But that was, we're talking about his family.
Yeah, no, that's the hardest example of forgiveness that I remember seeing, because, to forgive someone that killed your whole family,
yes.
It is absolutely very difficult. And, but what was happening is that he was killing himself with the hatred.
Yes.
So we see the example of because it hurts you more than it hurts the one you hate, right?
Right.
Exactly.
You remember Chico, right? When you hate someone, you send a copy and you keep the original.
Yes, that's right.
So yes.
But I do wonder if us at this stage are able to forgive unless we are kind of assisted and helped by spiritual forces. That's
no.
See, like I have to ask. Let me put it in my case. Let me take my case. In my case, I was able to forgive, but I had to ask because I just could not.
Yes, we cannot do it by ourselves. We need the assistance of the spiritual benefactors. Yes.
That's my point. That's okay. That's my
Yes.
point, because my experience is that I needed help.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Because what the first thing is we know that we have to forgive because it's healthier for us.
Exactly.
But
We know.
knowing doesn't mean that we can.
Exactly.
And so it has
Exactly.
to be an exercise. And to do this, we have to have the assistance of the
You hit
spiritual
the nail.
benefactors.
You hit the nail on its head.
Yes. So, yes. Okay, Philip?
Yeah.
And João,
Yeah.
hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
So a friend indicated a move that talks exactly about forgiveness, and the name is the shake. A cabana in Portuguese,
Okay,
but it's in English.
The shack.
The shack.
Yes, yes.
So,
Oh, yeah, I heard about this movie. Yeah, it's very powerful. Yes.
yes, I'm gonna watch this evening. So they said that helped us a lot to understand, take out the anger that we keep inside of us. Exactly what we're talking about now. So
Yes, the shack.
can help.
Yes.
Yeah, the shack. Okay,
Okay,
that's it.
Renato, your turn.
Yeah, so I don't want to steer too much there because I know this can be complicated. I know.
Complicated, yes, because we are all in the middle of it. So it's very difficult to discuss things when you are going through. It's like discussing the pandemic now for the spiritual reasons for the pandemic. We're in the middle of it. We cannot discuss.
Yeah, I get that, and I understand Phil as well, because being black, it's we see differently, we feel differently. So that's why I don't want to steer too much. I just want to say, I want to ask a question, but just to on this topic, I just want to make a comment that the way I deal with this, because affect me so much in the beginning, and even with the all the spiritisms and the knowledge that I had, I couldn't deal with. So remembering what you and Elmo always advise, so I decide to I don't know, that's not the right way to approach it, but I decide to ignore it for a little while because I'm not able to handle it.
Yeah,
it wasn't created too much anger and anxiety in myself. So that's why, what, let me just stay with this for a while, because it's just too much. But this is just me, saying that, in that sense.
But you are using one of the tools that that is important. You're not dismissing what happened. You cannot deal with it, so you rather not get mentally involved in it, not to harm yourself. When you are better prepared to deal with it as time, as we continue to live, because now we were in the middle of it, but let's say 6 months from now, 3 months from now, when you can look back and analyze more with a more calm conscience, maybe you can work on it later. But you are using what is available to you. And one thing that I want to make it very clear here, I cannot relate to what you guys go through because I'm not a minority. So I don't want to pretend here that I understand anything, okay, about what you go through. Just to make it very clear, because I see people saying I understand, I relate. No, I don't. I don't relate because I never went through these experiences.
Of course.
I just want to, I'm talking here about concepts, forgiveness, overcoming challenges, and being able to move forward without hurting ourselves with negative feelings that really prevents us from moving forward. Okay?
Wow.
Yes. Yes?
I just want to relate a little bit to this because I understand all of us have this particular problem. If we don't experience something, we really don't relate to it. But in
Yes.
my life, I have gone through several situations, some where it's just been talk, some where it has threatened my life. But I've been lucky enough not to have anybody really do anything to me that has physically hurt me. And when you look at a situation where a guy provided no resistance, but they found a way to kill him, that doesn't make any sense. And
Yes.
I've been in
It is.
situations where that could have happened to me.
Mhm.
And when you look back on it, you say, yeah, I'd like to forgive those people and hope that they get better. But I want to be in a position to not be in that position ever. And until that happens, it looks like it's almost impossible in the world we live in. Because every day on the internet, I see people selling all kinds of weapons. And they're really being bought mostly probably by people who want to commit these acts. That's all I have to say.
Yes. Again, Philip, I cannot relate. I'm not saying that I don't think anyone can claim to understand what happened, why these people took those actions, but we can only here discuss the tools that we have that Spiritism gives us to help overcome the challenges.
Exactly.
That's all we can do here. We cannot solve these problems. We can try to work for a better world, and that's what we all are trying to do here. And the more people understand about our life as eternal spirits, that we are going to be one day in this incarnation. I come on one race, on one gender, and another one different ones, so I can experience the challenges that everyone has experienced to evolve. That's all we can discuss here. It's very hard to explain reasons that are not explainable. Renato.
Yeah, can you go back just to the question?
Sure. There.
Yeah, because to me, I don't know if I interpret differently, but are there signs indicating that the humans have achieved the progress that will raise them in the spiritual hierarchy? And both answers gave us the characteristics of a person on that position, but didn't answer a yes or a no, at least on my perspective. So I'm assuming there's a big no here, but there wasn't like a no. There's no signs that humans have achieved, because this is in a present tense, right? Have achieved the progress. So it just says that the characteristics of the person on that level is blah, 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 right? Just to clarify.
Yeah. So when we talk about the spirit hierarchy, it relates to the beginning of this book when we study there is a chapter called Spirit Hierarchy, and we have different levels of progress of the spirits, right? From imperfect spirits to medium to evolved spirits. And the answer here, the answer, it's not really answering directly if there are signs, but it's saying that the elevation of incarnate spirits is demonstrated by the compliance with God's law and the understanding of the spiritual life. So what the spirits are telling us is, by doing that is how we are going to raise ourselves in the spirit hierarchy. I agree with you. It's not very clear, the answer from relating to the question, but the question is basically, are we progressing or not? What the spirits can say. And again, we discussed this many times. We just have to look at our evolution as human beings, and we are in better place today than we were 150 years ago when this book was written. So Elmo has a contribution. Go ahead, Elmo.
The way I see the answer, it seems to me that Kardec put a question in a collective way, the whole human race, but the spirits give an answer that basically say we need to individualize this. Each one will be judged if he had moved up to the in the hierarchy if they had been able to fulfill those attributes that he mentions, that the spirits mentions over there. So I think the way I see it, that is Kardec asked in the collective sense, and the spirits break down, individualize. Each one of us will move up the hierarchy. Some of us will not. Those who move up will remain on earth. Those who did not, that I'm going beyond the spirits now, of course, will go to planets or to worlds that are less involved than what Earth is right now. But I think what the spirits are saying here is that we cannot give an answer for the complete humanity. We cannot compare Elmo with Chico Xavier. We cannot compare Elmo with Madre Teresa. Because if you take the word the collective or humans, that's a very hard answer to give. If not in 1800, perhaps there was to say definitely no. Today, I'm not sure if the answer would be absolutely no. I think the majority of human beings on this planet today are much better than the criminals, the animals who are commit those kind of crimes against individuals today. I think it's a half dozen of bad potatoes in the bag that really make us look that bad.
That's true.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
One bad apple doesn't, yeah.
Any more questions? Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Anton.
I have a question.
Sure.
It's in regards to the balance between human laws, abiding to human laws and divine laws. What if there is a situation that requires an individual to maybe break a human law, but it's in abidance to divine law, but the outcome would be of a greater benefit than if it wasn't to act in the first place? Does that consider them to be a virtuous person?
You know, the question that you have to ask yourself is your conscience going to be clean? Are you going to have are you going to be conscious that you did the best according to the situation and the best for the general good? Because it's, you know, we are going to have, and we have human laws that are in opposition with the natural law, with God's law. We have human laws that, you know, the death penalty in this country. We know that to kill is against God's law, to kill a fellow individual. So when you have a human law that goes against God's law, it is, again, you have to work with your clean conscience that you are doing the best according to your abilities, to your knowledge, to your understanding, because it's, in the end, your intention is what really is going to matter in the end. So it's not a simple answer. There is no simple answer here, yes or no. Each case is a case, and sometimes you have to do what's best for the collectivity in the detriment of individuals, and this may go against the law of charity, meaning you have to treat everybody like you would like others to treat you. But let's say someone enters in our study in Zoom here and starts screaming or saying profanity or disturbing the class. So in order to protect the majority, we have to remove these individuals from class. Where is the charity there? The charity there is for all those that are staying, that are more important. The collectivity is more important than the individual that is, for any reason, is disturbing the studies. So it's hard, it's difficult to answer that, because ideally we would like to align God's law, the human law, with God's law, but unfortunately we cannot, and sometimes we will have to make choices. And when we have to make choices, we have to make sure that we are following what our conscience tells us it's right and the right approach. And you know, we are here and we are going to make mistakes. It's part of our evolution. And if we make mistakes because we were trying to learn and we were trying to do the best of ourselves, there will be smaller consequences because we are not going to feel guilty than when we make mistakes knowing what we are doing, and that's when we create karma for ourselves. I don't know if if the answer was good enough for you, but it's hard because there is no clear-cut answer for that. It's hard.
Yeah, it's a philosophical question.
Yes.
And you raised a good point about cause and effect, that it only affects you, not other individuals. So if there's only going to be a negative repercussion, make sure it affects you and no one else.
Yeah, it's a good point of view. Elmo.
Yeah, I put the question. Let's assume that you steal an apple to give to a child who is starving and get caught. Would you be in peace with your conscience because of your action? You broke a human law. You took property that belonged to someone else without paying for it, without permission of it, but you gave someone who desperately needed it. Would you be in peace with your conscience?
Yes.
I'd have to say, isn't stealing breaking a precept? It's part of the 10 commandments. It's also breaking a divine law.
But the question is, would you be in peace with your own conscience? Because you have to deal with your own conscience. That's where the law resides.
And maybe in this situation, the law of labor would come into play, that you need to figure out another way to resolve this situation that's in more harmony with the divine and human laws. But I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. It's not black and white. That's the problem, because we cannot put everything in black and white, right? And Elmo raised a very good question, right? So again, the important thing is, how do you feel? What your conscience tells you? You rather let a child die, or you rather face the consequence of stealing? Again, I'm not asking you to give an answer. I'm just asking, it's just what the question that we have to put to our own conscience in situations like that. Again, it's a simple question. It's easy to say, we should just pay the apple. No, let's say you don't have any resources. It's either you steal the apple or or the child dies. And again, it's moral decisions that we have to make according to our own conscience. And I'm not saying it's easy. There's no clear-cut answers, because everything is complex in our evolutionary path, right? And what's right today, it may not be right in 100, 200 years from now, right? Like we know that 200 years ago, some things were right, were part of society, and nowadays we look at them as barbaric acts. Fabio, you have a question?
No, just going back to answer maybe Anton. He said that he didn't know. I mean, he said it was more of a philosophical question. This has a lot to do with there's the work of Bernard Williams. He was a British philosopher. He wrote a lot about exactly this that you guys are talking about, especially in works such as the Reasons for Action, which is very interesting in truth. So just a name to. If you want to read more about this from the philosophical point of view, Bernard Williams is a great guy who came out of the phenomenology, which is a way of a part of philosophy. Thank you.
Okay, thanks,
Thank
Fabio. Can you write on the chat, Fabio, the name of the author in the book?
Sure.
Where everybody can see there if they want. Thank you. So, you know, we are having a great discussion. I would rather leave the question 919, which is one of the most important questions of the Spirit's book,
Yes.
for next week, because it's a question that demands maybe a whole class to discuss it, about know thyself, question 919. So I think we have 10 minutes left. I rather continue talking about this if anyone has any more comments, any more questions. So we leave the question 919, know thyself, which is a very important one. And if you want, you should study a little bit of Socrates and the Greek philosophers to discuss. So you are better prepared for next week, and we continue discussing what we've been discussing today, which has been very helpful and very enlightening. Anyone else has a comment, question? Okay, now I made everyone become silent.
No, John, I have maybe something. I'm not too sure. If we go back to the example you gave of if there's a child there and you go and you steal to give the child something to eat. What I'm looking at is that, okay, depending on where you stole it from, maybe I'm just going a little bit beyond that. The owner of the one who will get you for taking what you didn't buy, you stole, would be sympathetic and would see that the person who stole to give the child something to eat would not charge the person with anything. And you wouldn't have to be, no?
Yes, but I'll give you an example of one of the
That's what I'm thinking.
One of the most famous books in literature, in world literature, by Victor Hugo, Les Miserables, starts with him stealing a loaf of bread to give to his because he was hungry. Someone was hungry, I don't know, and he goes to prison for 20 years. So it happens.
Oh my God.
Yes.
It could happen.
Yes, it could happen. So, but again, we are not discussing the human law, the punishment, but we're discussing the concept here in terms of what is morally acceptable, right?
Yeah.
And then you can discuss. To steal it's against God's law, but what about the greater good, right? Someone let's say in a city that everybody is dying of hunger, someone has a farm full of fruits and refuse to distribute to those dying of hunger. Do you think it's fair for people to invade the farm and share the apples or not? Again, I'm not asking you to answer. I'm just raising points for thought here.
Yeah.
And again, Fabio Fabio brought a very good example of a philosopher, because these are philosophical questions. This is one of again, I've been studying a little bit of philosophy, Spiritist philosophy, because we have to remember Spiritism is basically philosophic science and philosophic moral teachings. Spiritism is science, philosophy, and the moral religious aspect, but it originates from the philosophical questions. If you start the Spirit's book, it's all philosophical discussions. When you ask question number one, when you ask what is God, this is not a religious question, this is a philosophical question.
Exactly. It's been around since the beginning of time, since Greek times. They've been asking this since Pythagoras, which is another extremely interesting person to read about. because he was very much into spirituality and mediumistic sessions and trying to understand why we're here. This is, you know, thousands and thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
And again, you know, for those that are new to Spiritism didn't bring anything new. Everything that you find in Spiritism has been already there, discussed in different religions, different philosophies, different. What Spiritism brings is an organization, a methodology, and a scientific approach to the spiritual life, a philosophical approach to the theme of reincarnation, of mediumship, of religion, and it bases it on all the knowledge that we have from immemorial times, and organize it, discusses, and gives guidance for us. It's very important to remember that, because sometimes people treat Spiritism as something that brought a lot of new things, and it actually hasn't, right? Mediumship exists since the time there was one person incarnated and one spirit in the spiritual world. Reincarnation is a philosophy that the Hindus believe in for 7,000 years. Maybe they don't fully understand how it works, or have misconceptions, and Spiritism brought the fully explanation, understanding, and assistance from the spirit to explain it. But Spiritism didn't bring reincarnation. It already existed. Spiritism didn't bring the discussion about God, that, as Fabio said, has been discussed forever.
Yeah.
So all this is just, it's important for us to learn, to discuss, to study, to try to improve our knowledge. And by improving our knowledge, we are going to apply that to the moral side and improve our moral aspect. Okay. Anyone else? Anything else? We still have some, like 5 minutes. Yes, Anton. Go ahead.
Considering how to put this question and answer into a practical sense today, I pose a question to yourself and the group. What could we do in the next 20 minutes to improve or progress or develop our sense of morality?
In the next 20 minutes?
Yeah, like if there's one little simple thing, like a prayer or...
There is not one simple thing, you know. I think there are what you are doing now, which is being in a group studying the teachings of Spiritism. It's helping you evolve morally, because you are acquiring knowledge that eventually, maybe not immediately, but eventually you'll be able to apply to yourself and to progress. So it's like building blocks, right? So you keep putting small blocks on top of each other to help you evolve. So, you know, maybe there will be something that someone will say in the next 20 minutes that will make a huge difference on how you think about something. Maybe not. So it's hard to pinpoint this, but you know, Spiritism gives us tools for self-improvement, but they are only tools. If we don't apply the tools to ourselves, we don't use it, it only becomes dry knowledge that doesn't help us or humanity. It's a start, it's better than nothing, but it doesn't help us progress. We need to put in practice, and the put in practice is an individual effort. You cannot, I cannot force you to put in practice anything. You cannot force me to put in practice anything we are discussing. It's our own personal journey. And
since you have the answer on my face all the time, I'll read like 3 times to see if I'm getting it right. Because the short answer said the elevation of incarnate spirits is demonstrated by the compliance of all their actions in the physical life with God's law and by their understanding of the spiritual life. Don't we study in the past that there's people that don't believe in God, don't believe in the spiritual life, and they do all the charitable and everything, the good stuff? So how do we apply that answer for them since they don't have an understanding of the spiritual life? Are they climbing that hierarchy as well? I believe so, but no, would love to
Yes.
hear your answer.
Yes, they are. The spirits, the answer from the spirits gives the whole package, but any part of the package helps you improve, right? So if their compliance in all their actions in the physical life with God's law, even if they don't believe in God and they don't think they are acting according to God's law, but they are acting to help themselves and help humanity. They are doing good deeds. They are working for the progress of everyone. They are progressing. They are progressing on the moral intellectual side. Even if they don't believe or understand about spiritual life. And again, the hardest part is to be a good person, to understand about it. Because the other way around, if you understand about the spiritual life but you don't put in practice, it's not going to help you much. So if you are already doing all the good you can, even if you don't believe in God or in the spiritual life, that will be easy. When you go to the other side, you understand and learn very quickly about the other things, and it will be easy. So the answer is the spirits give is a full answer to everything that we need to do. But if we do parts of it, we are progressing. Agree?
Thank you. No, yeah, I thought you were going to say that. I just want to make sure.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Now we have 2 minutes left. So now we're going to stop here. So before we go to the final prayer, let me share with you something here. I'll stop sharing this and share this. That came out today. Okay, it's the Gospel According to Spiritism by the United States Spiritist Federation. So it's available on our. It's not yet on our website because I didn't have time to put, but it's going to be launched this weekend on the Spiritist Symposium. And if you want to purchase, you can already purchase, even if you purchase the old one in our website, I'm going to send you the new one. So talking about the symposium, finally we arrived at the weekend of the symposium, Saturday and Sunday. Just again, repeating for those that haven't heard it before or forgot, the Spiritist Symposium is the annual English-speaking encounter of the Spiritists every year in a different place in the US. This year was planned to be in San Francisco, California. And so the idea was by being in San Francisco, the theme was decided to be soul searching in a technological era, because that's what San Francisco is, right? And little did we know, but the spirits of course knew, that we were going to do it virtually because of the pandemic. So we decided to move the symposium to a virtual environment. The the theme is very appropriate for a virtual symposium, but also it was decided to divide in 2 days. Normally the symposium is one full day. We had last year in New Jersey, and many of you have were with us there, and it was a wonderful event. But we thought that you know, a full day was a little bit too much for people to stay in front of their computers. So it was decided to divide it in 2 days. On Saturday, our time, okay, normally you see the Pacific time because it's San Francisco time. Our time from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. And on Sunday, our time from noon to 2 p.m. So it's 2 hours on Sunday, 3 hours on Saturday. I ask you to all join us, even if you cannot join for the whole event for both days, but at least try to catch part of it. We have 3 lectures, we have 2 panels. I'm going to be moderating the whole program on Sunday. I'll be your host on Sunday, and we are going to have a Q&A with Spiritism with Jussara, with Dan Assisi, and with Julio Carvalho. That will be at 1 p.m. our time. Before that, we have the lecture by Flavio Zanetti, The Role of Technology in the Dissemination of Spiritual Values. Okay, you are all invited. Please join us, make an effort. Even if you cannot stay the whole time, just turn on your computer so we register your presence. 2 ways to watch it: through the United States Spiritist Federation Facebook page, and the other one through the United States Spiritist Federation YouTube page. You'll find the live programs there. Please feel free to share with any lists that you have, friends, family, people everywhere in the world, because I think it's going to be a great opportunity for us to be together in an event organized by the United States Spiritist Federation and Spiritism in English, which is has been our work for 20 plus years here. Okay, I hope to see you all there, and I'm going to ask Carol now to do our final prayer.
Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we are grateful for the opportunity this evening to be together to study, each one of us, study directly the Spirit's book. We are truly grateful for the spiritual benefactors, the good spirits, and the mentors who are here with us, guiding us, inspiring us, and helping us to move forward each day, to do better, to improve, and to put into practice the Spiritist principles. We are truly grateful. We give thanks for what we have learned this evening. May we move ourselves and inspire ourselves to move from vice into a virtuous life. May we be more kind. May we be more compassionate, more understanding, more respectful, and empower not only ourselves, but also assist others to receive the blessings, the knowledge, and the wisdom. May we go forth this week respecting others more deeply. May we see the value of human life, and may we receive in our hearts the heart songs that we need to improve not only ourselves, but our families, our friends, our loved ones, our communities, and our world. We have a lot to do, but we can do it. We are moving forward each day. We are more empowered than ever before. And we give thanks for the guidance of the blessings of the spiritual benefactors and the love and light of the Christ consciousness that we are receiving within. As we close this portion of the meeting, we humbly ask for safety and protection for not only ourselves, but our loved ones, our family and friends and coworkers. May we continue to go forth with our prayers, with our studies, with our mindfulness and contemplations throughout the week. May we improve by finding those things within that are in need of improvement, that are in need of reflection and are in need of revision. We close this meeting now and we bring in our beacon of light within, the hearts within us. Go forth in peace, so be it.